My girlfriend left me and got pregnant by someone else while I was at war. When I came back, I faced the pain and started living anew. I still remember the smell of sand and gunpowder the day we left Afghanistan. That smell seemed to sink into my skin, my bones, staying with me even after a shower, as if the war didn't want to let me go. It clung to everything. My uniform, my hair, the memories that were hard to shake off. The flight home was silent, not because no one wanted to talk, but because there were no words that could describe what we had seen, felt, and endured. We sat quietly, each somewhere far away, between the desert and home. When the plane landed in the US, people applauded us at the terminal. I should have felt proud, but instead, I felt like a fraud, like they were welcoming not me, but the boy I used to be, the one who no longer existed. Coming home wasn't what I imagined. It wasn't a celebration with confetti and warm hugs. It was confusion, silence, loud, screaming in my heart. The first time I entered a supermarket, in the cereal aisle, I had a panic attack. The noise, the colors, the people. I froze when a box fell from the shelf. They didn't understand. They didn't know I'd been trained to hit the ground in such situations. It was my instinctual reaction learned in combat. My ex-girlfriend, who once waited for me, tried to understand. God bless her. But I saw in her eyes, I wasn't the man she knew. I slept on the floor for weeks, even though we had a bed. The softness of the bed felt undeserved. My daughter was afraid of me at first, and I didn't blame her. I was afraid of myself. I didn't know how to talk about what I'd seen. Screams, blood, a child who didn't come back from the battlefield. His name was Jensen. Sometimes I talked to him in my head. Some nights it seemed like he answered. People asked stupid questions. Did you kill anyone? Was it cool? Did you get any medals? I wanted to scream, but I smiled, said something polite. I didn't want to make them uncomfortable. Funny, right? I went to war so they wouldn't have to, yet I tiptoed around their comfort. Help didn't come so much from government services as from other veterans, people who didn't flinch when I went silent, who didn't need me to explain that some days were harder than others. One of the hardest things was coming back to a world that kept spinning without me. Friends moved on, life went on. I returned expecting things to be the same, but everything was different. Maybe I had changed. Maybe everyone had. But over time, I learned to hold my daughter, learned to sleep in a bed, and even laugh. A real, heartfelt laugh. War changes you, but coming home teaches you who you really are. I'm not just a veteran. I'm a father, a husband, a man who came back, and that's a story worth telling. But to understand this, you have to start from the beginning. We met by chance in line for coffee. She was ahead, ordering a cinnamon cappuccino, and I joked it was too wintry for autumn. She laughed, and that laugh stayed in my memory like the best melody. We sat on a bench by the park, drank coffee, and talked as if we had known each other all our lives. The first months with her were like a movie. We walked in the rain, fed pigeons, shared stories about childhood, dreams, fears, and secrets. I talked about my dream to open a car repair shop, and she about her wish to become a psychologist to help people. We planned a trip to the mountains, quarreled over little things but always found our way back to each other. Sometimes she asked, "What if the war starts? What then?" I smiled and said, "If it happens, we'll hold on tighter than ever, because love is our stronghold." She believed it. So did I. When the draft notice came, I couldn't say a word. I just stared at the paper like it was a sentence. She came to my home, saw my look, and quietly sat beside me. We sat like that for an hour, without words, without movement. Then she quietly said, "I'm with you till the end. I'll wait." Those were the words that kept me afloat. The last days before leaving we spent in silence. Forgotten cafes, forgotten friends, it was just us. She asked me to promise to come back. I joked about medals and rings. She laughed through tears. We wrote letters to each other and sealed them in envelopes, promising not to open them until we met again. She gave me a small photo album with our pictures and a note. "Come back to us." I carried it in my bulletproof vest close to my heart, along with her scarf smelling of her perfume. In the first weeks at the front, I often reread her letters. They were my light in the darkness. Every voice message was like a breath of fresh air. Then I came home, hoping for hugs, joy, happiness. But the door opened not by me, but by a stranger, holding a child, her new family. She said, "I didn't know if you'd come back." My heart broke, but I couldn't even cry. I just walked away. The first weeks at home were a new hell. Panic attacks, fears, nighttime silence. Even a simple supermarket became a test. For example, in the cereal aisle, I had a breakdown. People looked at me like I was crazy, but I was just broken. I was saved not by doctors but by other veterans, those who understood my pain without words. We gathered in small groups, drank coffee, and stayed silent. In that silence, there was more understanding than in thousands of words. I began a new life, first working as a security guard, then opening a small auto shop with a comrade. It wasn't a dream, but it was mine. Step by step, I put myself back together. One day I met her. A woman who didn't ask about the war, didn't demand painful stories. She just was there, silent, supportive. I was afraid to trust again, but her warmth eased my fear. She listened to stories about childhood, motorcycles, first falls, small joys I once lived for. She said, "I don't ask what happened. I see who you are. And that's enough for me." Then for the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive, not just existing. I don't live in the past. It's like a scar that doesn't disappear but no longer hurts. I don't seek revenge, don't hold grudges. I chose the path forward. Every morning I wake up not with the voices of war in my head but with her smile beside me. And I think, maybe I didn't return the same man. But I became who I was meant to be. It was one of the hardest truths I ever had to face, but it forced me to grow stronger. I realized that my worth didn't depend on someone else's choices. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, focusing on healing, on finding peace within myself, and on creating a future where I'm the one in control. The past won't define me. I'm choosing to rise above it and become the man I'm meant to be. At first, the betrayal cut deep. Nights were the hardest, alone with my thoughts, haunted by what could have been. But slowly, I found strength in the silence. I started setting small goals, pushing myself to grow beyond the pain. Friends, old and new, became my pillars. I returned to the basics, training my body, sharpening my mind, and learning to forgive myself for things I couldn't control. In time, the anger softened into resolve. I realized that my story isn't defined by others' mistakes but by how I rise after falling. This journey taught me resilience, taught me that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones within. Now, every day is a chance to rebuild, to prove that I am more than my past, and that the future is mine to shape. That I started to see my pain not as a curse, but as a catalyst. Each scar reminded me of battles fought, not just on distant fields, but within myself. I learned to channel my anger and heartbreak into purpose, helping other veterans who struggled to find their way home. Through their stories, I found healing and hope. Slowly, I opened my heart again, not to someone else yet, but to the possibility of peace. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, finding strength in new routines and small victories. The road wasn't easy, and sometimes I stumbled, but I kept moving forward, because I knew that true courage wasn't just surviving war. It was learning to live after it. Now, I carry my past with me, but it doesn't weigh me down. Instead, it fuels the man I'm becoming, the man who will rise, no matter what life throws his way. There were moments when I wanted to give up, when the weight of betrayal and loss felt unbearable. But in those darkest hours, I discovered a fire inside me that refused to be extinguished. I reminded myself why I fought, not just for a country, but for a life worth living. I started setting new goals, small at first, waking up early, working out, reconnecting with friends who understood the journey. Step by step, I reclaimed my identity beyond the uniform and the heartbreak. I learned that healing is not linear. It's messy, slow, and deeply personal. Most importantly, I learned to forgive, not to forget, but to free myself from the chains of anger. Forgiving myself allowed me to open the door to new possibilities. Today, I'm not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by how I chose to move forward, stronger and wiser than before. With time, I realized that my journey wasn't just about overcoming betrayal or trauma. It was about reclaiming my life on my own terms. I began to dream again, to build new relationships founded on honesty and respect. I learned to trust my own strength and to find peace in solitude as much as in company. The war changed me, but it didn't break me. The pain I endured forged resilience and shaped a new purpose. I'm no longer the same man who left. I'm someone who has faced the worst and come out standing. Now, every sunrise is a reminder that life goes on, that healing is possible, and that I still have many chapters left to write. At times, the memories threaten to consume me. The sounds, the faces, the weight of loss. But slowly, I learned to carry them differently. They became reminders of my strength, not my weakness. I focused on what I could control. My choices, my actions, my future. I found purpose in helping others, sharing my story so they wouldn't feel alone. Each step forward was a victory, a testament to my resilience. I embraced the uncertainty of life, knowing that growth often comes from the hardest trials. Though the scars remain, they don't define me. I am more than my past. I am a survivor, a fighter, and a man ready to face whatever comes next, with courage, hope, and an open heart.